they took 1 million square feet. And on day one of this building, it was Condé Nast, and it was the Durst Organization's small field office. 6 to 8 of us, whatever it was at the time. That was it. This is a 3.1 million square foot building. So we're talking about basically floors 45 to 90. Nobody in them. It felt a little weird. It was ghost towny here for a while. When the building was first built, we contemplated that it would be a corporate user type of building, right? We figured it was going to be financial services, firms, law firms, and all the accounting and that sort of stuff. What it quickly became was a TAMI community. Are you guys familiar with the acronym TAMI? It's a good one to learn. You know it? Technology, advertising, media, and information. It's basically like an umbrella for tech, right? One tech firm came in, another tech firm came in, and suddenly technology was the draw here. We pivoted our marketing approach sometime in 2016, 2017, and we said, instead of advertising this building as something for everyone, let's hone in on this momentum that we have towards TAMI. Let's start creating marketing materials that are creative and splashy and cool looking for those kinds of companies. And we built and we built and we built until we became New York City's largest TAMI community, which basically meant the largest concentration of technology firms in the building. The momentum was fantastic, and it led to a very creative energy here in the building. I was telling somebody that I was walking with. The average age of a worker here in this building is about 35 years old. We have had companies come in where the CEO, we've had at least 2 that I can think of, hadn't even started college yet, right? We're talking like 17, 18-year-old kids who got some great series funding, some family money, whatever it was, and they launched some pretty successful startups. So we've seen some really interesting things happen in this building. In recent years, like in the past 2 or 3 years, we've seen a bit of a shift back to some more traditional firms. We've had, last year we signed our very first law firm, and then subsequently right after we signed another law firm, but like for 10 years we didn't have any law firms in the building. We have some financial services, some family offices, that kind of thing. So we're starting to see a little bit of a more professional kind of a crowd here at this building. Why the TAMI draw? Let's roll back for a minute. When you guys think of Lower Manhattan, downtown, what do you think of first? Just start throwing some things out there.
Wall Street.
Wall Street, financial district, any other things? That's fine if that's it. Chinatown, I haven't heard that one, but sure. Not quite where I was going, but sure. Traditionally, Lower Manhattan, FIDI, which is the financial district, was just that, right? Like financial district, financial services companies, the stock exchanges here. Everybody's in at, 7 in the morning, and by 5 o'clock, everyone's out the door, and there's nothing.
I'm going to jump in.
Go for it. I'm going to give you tons of time, don't worry.
No, but the way, and I'm in the retail brokerage business, and we're going to get into that, but the way our perspective in the industry, across the board, as it relates to the financial district, was that if you got shot on Friday night, they wouldn't find your body till Monday.
That's nice.
I knew you didn't like that, but that was the perception that FIDI became a post 9/11 acronym. It was the financial district, it was Wall Street, and people came to work 7:30 Monday morning. They worked, till the stock market closes at 4:30. They worked till 5 o'clock, and that was it. Everybody served food. The stores around served lunch. There was no dinner. They served breakfast and lunch. There was no dinner business. And again, I'm being glib, but that's how the industry perceived the market. And over the last 10, 15 or so years, it has evolved. But I give it back to you.
No, you don't have to. That was something
that's how we looked at it. And by the way, there's still some thought on that. Okay, the market has changed not only with what Karen and the company done. And by the way, I'm going to say check the history books. God, am I old? Look online. When you look at New York City real estate and the history of it, the Durst Organization is one of the most prolific historic developers literally in the history of New York. So take a look at that, and so you can understand what they've done here was just not just one hit wonder by any stretch.
Thank you for that. I'll tell them a little bit about Durst.
Okay. But that's how we look at it. But post 9/11, a lot of things changed. They started to try to get older office buildings, convert them to residential, to try to get more population down here. the financials were probably the first to start that. It's now going throughout the whole city, but that's a whole separate story. But down here, there's been a lot of conversion to residential. A lot of the old buildings, they're landmarked, they can't be knocked down, so you gotta rehab them and turn them into resi, and they're trying to build more of a community. I think it was maybe 2 years ago, the first Whole Foods opened up down here, and Printemps, which is a foreign department store, just opened up probably like within the last 6 months. They're continuing to try to drive this as a 7-day community. Still some work, but it's on its way. But for many, many years, it was really just 7:30 to 5, Monday to Friday, and that's it. You can cut this off the map of Manhattan until the
But
following
it's a good thing
Monday.
they didn't,
Right.
because it's so dynamic down here now. You know, part of the draw as to why Lower Manhattan became this sort of robust, flourishing neighborhood, as Cory's pointing out, is because of exactly that, where it's located geographically, right? So, for those of you that are kind of familiar with the landscape of New York City, Lower Manhattan is surrounded by neighborhoods such as, like I said, Tribeca, the Village, right? All of these sort of cooler kinds of areas. Brooklyn is another direction, but it's literally right across the way. Brooklyn is filled with young people, creative people, that kind of an energy. The other direction, which is across this way, is Jersey City and Hoboken. If you guys have heard of those neighborhoods, also very young, creative energy, that sort of thing. Most important thing to almost any New Yorker is their time, right? Nobody wants to have this long, drawn-out commute. So the centrality of these neighborhoods where you have the young people and the creatives living was part of the draw as to why the creatives were flocking to want to work here. So once you started to feel that shift, then it was just momentum. There is another reason why this building and a lot of the surrounding area became a hub for, and I couple technology with younger people for a reason, just because that's normally what it is, not because I'm trying to sort of jiggle anything. But there is another reason, and I'm gonna touch on this. I don't like to talk about it too much, but we can touch on it, and if you guys want to, we can talk about it more. The 9/11 factor, right? How many, was anybody here around or alive or born before 9/11? Faculty, I know, you were, you, okay, you were, you? I was actually a senior at, in Maryland when 9/11 happened, but, the reason I point that actually where I was and why I was there is for this reason exactly. Anyone who's a year older than me, just 1 year older than me, right, I'm 45 years old, might have been working in New York City at that time, on that day, downtown, in Lower Manhattan, very, very triggered. As time goes on and people get older and you have a new generation sort of rising up, everyone knows what happened in 9/11. Nobody learned about it in school. Everyone finds it equally traumatizing and upsetting, and nobody really wants to think about it. But it's not a personal trigger, right? So what happened, especially when this building first opened in 2014, where there was a lot of people who were just like, I don't want to come to that building. And we thought that it was a fear factor. So we gave them workshops with our security staff and all of this stuff to try to show them how safe this building really is, and lightning doesn't strike twice, and all the reasons why. But what we were realizing was that it wasn't an actual fear factor. It was a memory factor, which we were able to discern as two different things, right? The memory factor is the one we didn't even attempt to get anybody over. If you were here that day and you don't want to bring your office back here, who am I to tell you that you should? I'm not, right? But all these new companies who are coming in and raising up now, memory factor is not an object for them. Maybe fear factor, which we can get 99% of people over, but not memory factor. Does anyone want to talk about that or have any questions about that? We don't have to, but if you want to, we can. Or does that make sense, what I just said? Do you have anything you want to add?
No, I would just say that there was a short period of time that, besides the general area, there were people, and I heard this anecdotally, had fear of just going up high in any building. It wasn't even just about, just in general, there was a period of time throughout New York City about just going into the height of any particular building. So I think that played into some of that.
Definitely.
Along the way.
Absolutely.
What role did the city play in helping bring this area back economically?
Lots of money thrown in. Economic incentives were offered for people to bring their offices down here. Those incentives, they threatened to expire like every year, and they never do. They just sort of rolled into perpetuity. You can actually save between $8 and $10 per rentable square foot just by leasing down at the trade center, or just by leasing certain certain buildings rather, south of Chambers Street. The economic incentives were the biggest lever that the government can pull that I can think of. I don't know if you can think of any others.
No, that was it. You know,
Yeah.
the government, state agencies, what have you, are behind a lot of this, you know.
Yeah.
The incentives were one, and also even before that, the planning, right? How long did it really take to get the first shovel in the ground? There are a lot of, people that didn't want anything built here, right? That was a big part of the overall, you know, landscape. That there were people fighting hard to never have another building built down here at all. It was just gonna be, you know,
The memorial.
Memorial,
Yeah.
and that was it. So there's a lot of stuff that goes on. But again, you know, the economic incentive is huge. Like, I don't know the deals in terms of that, it never goes away. They want to bring life down here, not just economic life. They want to bring, you know, human life and vibrancy. So they're gonna do everything they can to get you here.
Yeah. So that was sort of the play there. Yeah.
When you analyze the difference between the fear factor and the memory factor, how does it alter your marketing and sales strategies? And what changes do you make when you first analyze that?
No, so we never go out proactively with anything negative like that. We wait for those questions to come to us. You know, for example, it's so pointed and timely that you say that. We were just awarded some big, very well-recognized national safety award. We're one of the handful of buildings in the city that have it. And our management pushed us to put that on marketing materials as a bullet point. And the leasing team, which consists of myself and a couple of others, pushed back, and we said, nope, we are not putting this as a bullet point in our marketing materials. If anyone wants to ask us about it, fine. Otherwise, we don't feel that we need to lead with the negative, especially now when it's so rarely comes up. Yeah.
For the fear factor and memory factor, did you guys do any study that would be just to kind of get to that conclusion?
It was more anecdotal. And we realized it, once we realized it pretty quickly, that it was that. Yeah, but there is a big difference. And every now and then, like, the fear factor will come in with younger people, you know, with 25 to 30-year-olds, who are like, oh, I'm scared, you know, and it's okay to feel that way. But I don't really want to get into that right now, because I don't think it's that interesting, but there's a million reasons why this building is really, really safe from both a building infrastructure point of view, as well as just from, like, the staff that we have, the FBI folks that are looking over it all the time, the connections that we have to government and chatter, and everything we know, everything that they've done to secure the airline industry, right? Like, that in and of itself is not something people are thinking about, because cockpits are locked, right? Like, it's not happening again. Soft targets, unfortunately, are much more of a target in New York City, but don't worry too much, enjoy your time here. Don't think about it, okay? Because anything can happen anywhere, but in any event. I do want to touch briefly on the Durst Organization, the company that I work for, and who we are, and then I would love for you to talk about. Yeah. So, Durst Organization is a family-run business. We have been in business since 1915. I've been with the company since the day I graduated college, well, a couple months after, August of 2002 I started. I feel like I'm family, but I'm not. I'm not actually in that family. But we started, you know, ground-up developers, right? So at this point in time, Durst owns about 13 million square feet of office properties in New York City. We have a handful of residential developments as well, mainly in Queens. Look at the helicopter. Cool, right?
That's how high up you are.
That's how high up you are. We also have some residential properties in Queens as well. And, you know, the company is run in a very, very efficient way in that we were the leaders in sustainability. For those of you that are familiar with LEED, which I'm sure most of you are, I see a lot of nods, all of you are, okay. Some of our buildings in the Times Square area were the first to be LEED certified gold, LEED certified silver, that sort of thing. Big leaders in the sustainability initiative. When it came time for One World Trade Center to come out of the ground, the land was owned by the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey. Port Authority of New York and New Jersey is a governmental agency that runs bridges, tunnels, airports. That's a lot of things. We have 3 airports here, right? Like we have JFK, Newark, LaGuardia. We have more bridges than I could ever count. We've got so many tunnels. They're doing so much. Operating real estate, not exactly their forte. So they went out, you know, with an RFP for developers to bid, to partner with them, right? Durst put their hat in the ring. We actually were selected in 2000, I want to say 8, and we became the port's partner. we were hired by the Port Authority to oversee the construction of the building, manage the building, and lease the building. And in exchange, we also have 10% ownership of the building, right? So that's our involvement down here. I do wanna talk to you, and I know Cory wants to talk to you about our careers and all of that, but before I hand it over to Cory to talk about his company, do you have any questions about Durst? Yeah,
Actually, you mentioned the Port Authority. Are they a tenant in this building as well?
there is tenant across the street at Four World Trade Center.
Oh.
They're our friendly neighbors. Yeah.
I would like to hear a little bit more about your process and upward mobility within your position at Durst.
I'm gonna talk about that, because I know that that's a really interesting conversation, and everyone likes to hear about that stuff. I'm gonna get to that in a minute, okay?
Good. You wanna finish that?
Well, I feel like we'll get to those stories. Those are the fun stories. Those are the fun
All right,
stories.
so my real estate art is so completely different. I was talking to Sala and Dennis, and I tell them, you know, I'm a broker. I gotta make deals, make a living, and I wake up unemployed every single day, and I'm happy to do it. And I continue to do it. I'm doing it coming up. September will be 40 years that I'm in the retail real estate business. It was an accident. I'm not gonna bore you with a long bio, but how'd you start in the business? Purely by accident. I was playing ball one day, a guy says, if someone's looking for somebody at the company, they'll pay you $250 a week to walk the streets. And that's how it started. I thought I came out of Maryland, I thought I'd go to Wall Street, I didn't know any better.
What'd you study?
I was a liberal arts student.
Oh.
That's it. I got nothing. I confess to that. I'm a street guy in a suit. Always have been. I'm born and raised in New York City, my entire life. I live out on the Upper East Side for the last 50 years. And so what I find, you know, what I have found over the course of my career, which I love, is that every single day is different. Okay, I represented a company called Dwayne Reed. I'm going to tie this to you. Dwayne Reed is a local New York City drugstore chain. Okay, and I got involved with them with my former partner back in '93. And for the next 10 years, we opened up over 200 Dwayne Reed drugstores. And every single transaction was different from the one before. And again, I love it. I love what I do every day because of things like that. A quick tie into the world trade is that the number 2 highest grossing Dwayne Reed drugstore was in the World Trade Center. In what is next? If you went there, I don't know if you guys go to the Oculus. Okay, so the Oculus, that whole retail hub, before it was called the Oculus and the redesign, was just really at the base of these buildings and the commuter traffic between Jersey, New York, whatever. So Dwayne Reed, they had a store. We call them convenience stores. People call them drug stores. They were doing $26 million a year, give or take, in volume. Lost it in the tower. Okay, side note, I'm testifying on an insurance claim between Dwayne Reed and the tower because of all that. So,
Sounds like a lot of drama.
yeah, we lost that one. And then when the whole area got smashed up, Dwayne Reed at the time was a New York City, still is a New York City centric drug chain, and they wanted to be where you were. And so down here, they had 5 stores within the district, the financial district. That's where the workers were, that's where the people were moving. So they had to close all 5 stores, given everything that went on down here. And I was telling Lauren before we came in that 9/11 happened on 9/12. We're sitting with the CEO of Dwayne Reed, trying to figure out how to replace stores. Figuring out, went right over to Jersey.
Because that's
the
so
store.
important, 'cause it's basic.
So important,
Yeah.
because in the pharmacy business, side note, in the pharmacy business, if you lose a customer in your pharmacy, and they choose to go to that pharmacist, you never get them back. Just a thing in that industry. So that's my little World Trade Center tie-in. But what I've done over the years is I've learned about so many different businesses. I represent a company called Panda Express. You guys are probably familiar with that, right? So Panda Express has 2,800 stores, right? People say, oh, fast food, Chinese. They have 2,800 stores, no franchises. They're all corporately owned, family-run, privately held. And when they decided to come to New York 20 years ago, I had the good fortune of meeting some people, and I've been working with them for 20 years, almost 20 years. The first 8 years that I was involved with them, we did no deals. They just wanted to learn about New York. Did I speak to them every single day for 8 years? Absolutely not. quarterly reports, what's going on in the market. The gentleman who owns the company, Andrew Chung, he just bought the Portland Trailblazers. He's in the real estate business. He comes to New York. He may even own half the buildings up the block for all I know. But he's always in New York. He's always asking questions, and we kept him informed. And then the day came where they said we're going to strike. And so after 8 years, we finally signed our first lease. Now we have about 25, 27 open in and around New York City, all the boroughs. I've had the good fortune to do work in all of the boroughs of New York City. And again, you wake up, I can get a call tomorrow about new business. And that's what I love. So it's a little bit of a different path. I don't build buildings, I don't design buildings. I invest in buildings, I invest in retail properties. Again, people say to me, I divert a little bit because there's so much going on, but people like to say, I run a small company. I guess I should go backwards. So I have a small
I was
company.
about to say, tell us about your company.
My company, there are 9 of us, okay? Lauren, a fellow, I'm gonna embarrass her, a fellow Turk, just joined the company. She's handling social media and marketing for the company. But there are 9 of us on the team. I did some of the big company stuff long ago, got away from that. I appreciate the independence. We broker, we do leasing, only retail. We're only in the retail business. And that's all we do. My guys, I have young, I have old, I have a good mix. We have a great format for keeping everybody involved. We're not as cutthroat as some of those Matthews people in those organizations. I like to keep a team approach to what we do, and that's how we conduct our business on a regular basis. Another thing with running a small company, different than the others, COVID happened, right? We had a COVID incident, affected every single one of us in some way, shape, or form. So COVID hits, and what do you do? Because no one's doing anything, right? I start getting calls from all of my retailers, all the Panda Expresses, Lenwich, they're a local chain, they have 20 stores here in New York. I represent them for the last 10 years, Lenwich. What do we do? What do we do? We spent 3 months on the phone with landlords on how to survive, right? There was no business. If you were in Midtown, you had no one, because no one was allowed back in the office. We renegotiated leases. We deferred rents. We did all of these things. Unheard of. This is not in any real estate handbook. This is learn on the fly kind of stuff. I say wild because I was involved with it, and maybe you can appreciate it. But again, woke up the next morning and had something new to do. And you just keep doing it. So we deferred all of those leases, got paid zero. Got paid zero. That was all about maintaining relationships, which is the whole key to what I do. My business is relationships and information. We went through that process, and then we got from March 13th, March 15th, whatever the official pandemic day was, we got ourselves through the summer, creeping along, but we're a company, and my brokers aren't making any money. I'm not making any money. What do we do next? Social media. I don't want to say social media anymore because it was there, but we grabbed hold of social media that we can get away with as a small company. I have friends that are on the CBREs, the Cushmans, the JLLs. They can't do it. They're publicly traded companies. Everybody wants, you have to watch what you say. 9 people have to sign off on it. Now I tell Lauren, pick up the phone, pick up the telephone, start filming, and we film something. Do I have Kardashian like followers? No. But
Oh, I'm sure you do.
not yet. You guys are gonna blow me up. But within the industry, people know who I am. I do a podcast. We post about our sites. We post about the market. And so we had some fun with it. And there was no design to say, I'm gonna do social media, so I'm gonna grow my business 10x. Can't do it. There's no formula for that. But in these 6 years, I've gotten a lead with a financial company. We get a phone call, we saw you on something, can you help us? We want to bring our company called Moo, okay? Moo Financial Services, okay? You're shaking your head, right? So what Moo Financial Services, what? Make a phone call or two. They're a $15 billion company out of China. They heard of us. The corporate entity is Futu, but they heard of us. Took Moo, did our work, showed them all around the city. They wanted to see things. I actually had, in Times Square, right around the corner from your building. I had the guys in Times Square, just because of some of my relationships, light up a billboard for a half hour with Moomoo's logo, because we were looking in Times Square to open up a location. All of Times Square, right where the ball drops. Moo, 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 moo. Unfortunately, they didn't choose that location, they chose another one, but that was social media. Right now, and in the retail world, to the extent you can think about it, you know, Panda Express is 2,000 square feet, a CVS is 10,000 square feet. These are nice, you know. I got a call on a referral because of social media, and I'm now running around looking for 100,000 square feet. 100,000 square foot lead via social media. Okay, it's the size itself is almost unheard of on a retail level. Couldn't plan it, couldn't predict it. It was an adaptation to what we do, the social media. Get up tomorrow, there may be something new for me to do, and we can do it because I'm making the decisions. I don't have to go down the hall, see the CEO or the head of marketing, and that's what I love. And it takes me back to what I do. But I've been through the ringer in retail, and I've been through things, and some of it just comes with age. In the late 80s, there was a financial crisis. In the late 80s, there was a financial crisis just when I was getting started in the business. There was a dot-com bubble. There was a 9/11 incident. There was a financial crisis. There was a COVID. You adapt and you adjust, and that's one of the great things I love about the brokerage business, to be freewheeling, you know, in a good way, and just sort of rolling with the punches. And going back, you know, someone says to me, as a small company, they always love to say, "What's your exit?" I know everybody loves that. You guys, I know, and the youth, right? You all want to start a company and sell it 10x to somebody, you know. I say I don't have an exit strategy. I have an opportunity strategy. And I'm not saying this works for everybody, but because of where I sit, I see so many different things and hear so many different things. So now I own retail condominiums. I own shopping centers in Connecticut, in Philadelphia. I was just telling the boys, we were looking one down in College Park.
Okay.
On Route 1, there was a shopping center for sale. I think I told you, Don, when I saw you. We try to buy it, but a local group's gonna buy it. But because of where I am, and because I have flexibility in terms of my approach to the business, in terms of my approach to life, I see all these things. So I have no exit, I'm not going anywhere. I do all of these different things. And one last point that I had mentioned this a lot was that you wake up every day and you learn something new. I can't tell you how many of these I've done, and you see this too. Some lawyer comes with a different approach. Tenant comes with a different approach. You learn 40 years, and I will learn something today. And that's another fun. It's so not robotic. And to me, that's what makes the business romantic, is that you can just do and have fun and go. You have to be controlled, you have to be disciplined. Okay, I'm insanely disciplined. I get up very early every single morning. I have every single morning for the last God knows how many years. Work out, do this, boom, 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 boom. And if you can stay in that mindset, you will be wildly successful. I know that's the opposite of architecture and designers. I know there are some of you in here, but that's been my way of approaching the real estate business. So I'd love to talk about any aspect of that. If you have any thoughts, any questions, you guys let me run too long. So, any thoughts, please?
You talked about all the disruptions you've experienced in your career. I wondered, from that long-term perspective, which was the most difficult or interesting
I think in a way, they all have a certain level of interest, right? I think at the time of, you know, COVID was so extremely unknown. But you knew that it would get figured out. I couldn't tell you what day it would happen. But I think when, it was 08, 09, the financial crisis, when that, you know, that really hit home, and that was a lot of uncertainty. I know, like I said, that creates opportunity for people, and I get that. But there was, you know, that was a different kind of standstill in the business for a period of time. So there was, you know, I would not say it was jarring. Nothing was really jarring. I mean, world trade was jarring, right? But that wasn't jarring. It just the uncertainty of that was really challenging for what seemed to be like months is a long time to not know, not only what's next, but in our business, we get paid, in the leasing business, different than the sales business, we get paid over time in our transactions. Well, I already have money in the books. Well, if those landlords go south, I'm not collecting my money, but I feel like I've already made, so that's played a part of that too. I'll give you one last, this is crazy, I'll try to tighten this one up.
You're
I have
so
a
interesting.
I have my 9/11 story, okay? So 9/11, I was in the midst of a negotiation for Dwayne Reed drugstores at the time. It's this great location out in Queens, we're gonna sign a lease, we're gonna make a deal, I'm negotiating with the landlord. He lives on Long Island, I'm here in Manhattan, we decided we're gonna meet in the middle in Queens, okay? We make a meeting, the first plane hits, but I gotta go, I gotta get in the car, go meet. And we've had, unfortunately, Manhattan's had weird accidents and no one knew. I get in the car, I'm going up the FDR Drive, all of a sudden, all the emergency vehicles are running south. Obviously, headed here. I'm going to my meeting. Go to my meeting, all of a sudden, the phone's ringing, but you can't get through. You know, the phones were down, they weren't working. All my mother, my wife at the time, wanted to know that I wasn't down here, because my day-to-day, I could be anywhere. Anyway, I go out there, meet this gentleman, we shake hands, we now know we don't know what's going on, but the world's gone crazy, we shake hands, we agree on terms, to a deal. I come back, I know my way around, I know I can't come directly back into Manhattan, because they're at shutdowns. I decide I'm gonna drive over 2 bridges, then I'm gonna go to the Bronx. And I'm gonna go to the Bronx, top of the Bronx, and then come straight down to Manhattan, because you could walk Broadway, by the way, only street in the city, Broadway down here, you walk straight up, you're to the Bronx. Only street in all of Manhattan, fun fact, right? So I go to Broadway, top of Broadway in the Bronx, but there's a little water, and there's a small bridge, I didn't realize it. No one's coming into Manhattan. I take a side road from the top of the Bronx down to Manhattan, to what is the equivalent of 135th Street. I can't get in. Park my car in the Bronx, I take my Easy Pass, take my CDs at the time, wearing a suit, had a meeting, back then it was all suits and ties.
That was what was important, you grabbed your CDs from your car?
Yeah, we're leaving the Bronx.
The world is coming to an end, you're grabbing your CDs. I love that, you must have had some good music. Sorry.
All right, it's okay, I like that, it's good. Hey, priorities. But I load up, and I'm walking down, so I get down, I'm on 2nd Avenue, I'm walking, and it's a magnificent day, gorgeous day. People are like partying in the outdoor cafes, the world's come to an end, people got dismissed from their office, they really don't know what's going on. People are partying, like, unbelievable, gorgeous. And I get home and I have a blister, and, because I was dressed nice, whatever, but people are dying, it was crazy, it was sickening, and you're watching all this stuff. And then the compounding of that for me, and I know I drifted on the story, but November 23rd, okay, that was September 11th, November 23rd, I don't know if you remember this, we were still in school, a plane crash in Queens. People freaked out, they didn't know. It turned out to be just a plane crash, but they didn't know if it was another terrorist. On that day, we executed that lease. We agreed on terms on 9/11, we executed the day
Full
after.
circle moment,
Really
totally weird.
crazy weird. So just a quick tale, I'm sorry to bore you with that one, but it's just something that will never ever leave my mind.
It's not boring, it's
Yeah.
part of the fabric of your working history.
Yes.
It's not, I don't think it was boring,
Yeah, yeah.
I don't think it was boring.
All right.
I thought it was really interesting.
It's stuff, yeah, just
The whole
stuff.
partying in the streets, I was in school, so I
Yeah,
wasn't here.
it really was bizarre. You walk down, and forget the fact that I was wearing a suit and tie, and I'm like soaking wet because it was like a gorgeous day. But people are sitting in the outdoor cafe,
Yeah.
like nothing, like they were happy they got dismissed from work. Because what happened was every single office throughout the entire city, Midtown and wherever it was, just relegated to here. Everyone was sent
Yeah.
home.
Yeah. I've heard story, my husband was working, he's older than I am, and he was working in the city at the time, and his offices, his new offices that he was going to be moving to were in the middle of being, they were under construction, I should say, on, I forget, I'm just gonna say 88th, the 88th floor of Tower 2. He wasn't there because they were in interim space at the Gray Bar building in Midtown, so he was in Midtown.
Great.
I wouldn't have met him, I wouldn't have known, but he told me about the partying in the streets because people just didn't know how to digest something so intense on a beautiful summer day, so they just didn't.
Right. But we are resilient. We are New York.
Yeah.
We are resilient. We figure
Sure.
out a way every time.
100%. I loved all that, because I don't really know you well, so I
Right.
loved hearing your story, and
Thank you.
I think everyone's story is interesting, right? Like, how many of you are grad students? Which of you are grad, oh, okay, more than half, great. For those of you that are undergrad students, are you planning on going back to school, or are you looking for a job when you're out? Going back to school, does anyone have jobs lined up? I feel like somebody told me they had a job lined up for when they graduate. Yes, no, maybe, life is confusing. Who the hell knows what they're doing?
Go get internships. Go find your way into internships.
Well,
Be around the,
is
be
anyone,
around it.
is anyone a junior, or is everyone either a senior or a grad student? You're a junior, okay, great, good. You're a junior as well, okay, so you guys don't quite have to figure it out yet, although you know it's like on the horizon, right? Figuring out life is really, really complicated. You know, thus far, everywhere you've been has been the same in that it's been school, right? Except maybe there's a grad student or two in here who took a couple years off to work, and if that's the case, all this. But everything you know is school, right? Whether it's kindergarten or 6th grade or college, it's all still school. You know what to expect. The working world is a whole different kind of a ballpark. And I think hearing stories like Cory's, and I'm gonna tell you mine, are interesting because it shows you that there's a million different ways that you can walk your own shoes. And to remember that, I usually end with this, but I'll start with it. Remember that the shoes that everyone starts walking off in are exactly the same, and everybody's gonna go like this from this point on, and that's okay. And that's good, and that's interesting, and that's what makes you interesting, right? It's not a race against anyone except yourself. But that being said, so I grew up in New York City. I grew up in Brooklyn, right? But it's part of New York City. Brooklyn girl, born and raised. I left for 4 years to go to Maryland. I had absolutely no direction. I did not know what I wanted to do. It was like, I guess sophomore year or something, where they were like, you have to choose a major. I went to the career center. I don't even know if that's still a thing now. I guess it is. I literally remember taking some of those tests, like, what's your skill set? What's good for you? And it comes up speech pathology. I'm like, okay. I told my parents, they're like, oh, that's a great job. It's so lucrative and flexible hours and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay. So I declared speech pathology and audiology as my major. So I spent most of my sophomore, junior, senior year at the frat hall, which I don't know if anybody ever goes over there. It's all the way up in the corner somewhere in an old depressing building. Took lots and lots of classes, and it was fine. I don't know that I loved it, but that's what I was doing. Then it was, to your point about internships, it was the summer before my senior year that I got an internship. Back in New York, it was in Staten Island actually, at a school for children with, autistic children, working with them on their speech, right? Because when you're in speech pathology, this is not what we're talking about, but you could do a lot of different things. You could work with kids with developmental delays, you could work with stroke patients, and anything in between. I'm working with these kids, and they're so cute. I loved them. I wanted to just like eat them, but I didn't enjoy the speech pathology part of it, I guess. So that was me in the world doing something clinical on the field, and I said, this is not for me. This is not my personality. I don't want to do it. It was too late to change my major, so I just finished. I graduated college. 9/11 happened in September of my senior year. I'm entering this world, and it's so unknown, right? The job market was really bad. I came back to New York. I moved back home. Had no idea what I was doing with my life. I feel like I vaguely remember applying for some random jobs. Actually, this is an interesting anecdote. There was a job that opened at this ad agency called Interactive Corp. I found it on some job board, I don't know. And I applied, and it was like an assistant job. I was literally looking for anything. And when I went in and they interviewed me, they said, are you looking for a position that you can grow in? And I said, yes. I didn't get the job. And when they told me why, they said, we're not looking for someone who wants to grow, we're looking for someone who wants to be an admin. And I thought that was really interesting. It's something that like you're probably never gonna think about, but file it away somewhere in your mind. Be very mindful of the things that you say to people because they hear you, they're listening. Anyway, it was sometime in July, I guess. My best friend was working at the Durst Organization. She had some random job in the Human Resources Department. She didn't know what she was doing either. And she calls me up and she says, and I apologize, there's a few in the room who've heard the story, but she calls me up and she says, there's an opening in my company for a backup receptionist. Are you interested? And I'm like, Debbie, what? A backup receptionist? I have a college degree. Is this really what I want to do with my life? She's like, do you have any better options? No. She said, why don't you come on in for the interview? She's like, it'll be fun. We'll work together. This is my best friend from kindergarten. Fine. So I go in for the interview. I get the job. Suddenly I find myself a backup receptionist with the Durst Organization. This is where my story gets a little bit interesting. I think there's some takeaways. My company was small back then. Durst has grown a lot. Our corporate office up on 6th Avenue now has about 200 people. We were about 50 people at most then. It was a small office. But I was sitting at the reception desk when the receptionist was on her break, right? The rest of the time I was sitting in a conference room reading a book. I really was doing nothing. But I was doing one thing, and that was observing and meeting everyone. Even though I was literally 21 when I started, but soon thereafter 22, my birthday was in the summer, or is in the summer. 22 years old, but front-facing. The opportunity to liaise with and say good morning to all the top executives, including the president of the company. That's not something that most 21, 22, 23-year-olds had access to, but I did, and I was lucky. I harnessed that. I took a look around me, I said, this is a nice company, real estate is interesting. I had no business background, I never took a business class in my life. But I went to the head of leasing at the time, who's actually still our head of leasing. And I said to him, Tom, if there's ever an opening in the leasing department, I would love to be considered for it. He said, why don't you go and get your real estate license and we'll go from there. So I did, took the 45-hour course and the exam and all that, and I got licensed. 2 years later, sometime in like the spring of 2004, there was an opening for an assistant position. Answering phones, all that. They said, are you interested? I was like, of course I'm interested. And they were like, because you have your real estate license, we'll let you do a little bit more. We'll let you go on some of the space tours. We'll, you're licensed to do so, so we'll expose you to more than just being an admin. Took the job. I was an admin for 6 years. So my career trajectory is a little bit slower than some of my peers. It wasn't until I was 30 that I got a promotion to a leasing associate. And from there, things got a little bit more interesting for me, and so that was 2010, I became a leasing associate, I was working on our Midtown buildings, and then in 2014, they came to me and they said, we need to build a leasing team at the World Trade Center. Are you interested in joining? I don't even think I thought for more than 3 seconds, and I was like, absolutely I am. Now mind you, I knew nothing about Lower Manhattan. I never came down here. I might as well have been going to Chicago or China. Like, I really didn't know. Really, but I said, sure. Coming down here was the best thing that ever happened for me because we have a small leasing team. We work fairly autonomously. It just allowed me to really grow. And, from there I went from manager to director to assistant, whatever titles I had over the past few years. Right now I'm managing director and I'm working towards the next promotion, which I hope happens this year. So it's been a wonderful experience for me. But I like to tell that story because I don't know that most of you are going to be in the same job that you start out with day one of your career. Somebody in this room probably will, but most of you probably won't. And that's okay. Everyone follows a completely different path. For me, it was like the slow path, the patient path. There were days in the when I was in my mid-20s, I remember specifically, may she rest in peace, my grandmother saying, Karen, stop complaining, you work for a great company, have patience, great things will happen, just do great things. Because I wanted to change jobs. Had I changed jobs, I probably would have been doing something else interesting now. I don't know what that would have been. We don't know what we could have done, we only know what we did. But I always say, I have my grandma to thank that I had the perseverance to stay at Durst. And everything I gave to Durst, they gave back to me. So that's kind of my story, if that answers your question. Love to chat about that or anything else. We're here for you for the next however 20 minutes or so. Yeah.
I have a question more so about the leasing aspect. You mentioned the anchor tenant earlier.
Yeah.
I wonder if they had any exclusivity clauses within the contract, perhaps not having a competing business in here?
Absolutely.
Or was it more so because so much square footage was available right then that wasn't necessarily a factor?
There is a non-compete. So basically attached to every single lease that we execute in this building, there is a list of 8 companies, competitors of Condé, that may not come to this building. So for example, if you've heard of Hearst Publications, right? They're a big, I don't want to say competitor to Condé because there's space for everything, but something like that can't come into the building. So we do have an exclusivity on that. You had asked me about asking rents at the building.
Yes.
I promised you an answer. Who's studying real estate development? Okay, and the rest of you are more in the construction, architecture, project management world?
Urban planning.
Urban planning, okay. So the building right now, just so you know, toggle back to that, we're 97% leased. We are the highest percentage leased in this moment than we've ever been. We've been floating at 95% for the past 5 or 6 years. We just signed a couple of really big deals this first quarter, and we're at 97%. Very exciting. With that comes rents that climb, because there's very little space left in the world of super class A, you know, prime buildings like this. We're asking right now between $80 and $90 a foot on whatever available space we have left, which is like nothing. This floor is available, if you know anything. We also have the penthouse, which is available, which is a beautiful offering. Just for your own perusal, we're actually just coming to market with the penthouse, so we're very deep in marketing materials for it, and we're offering it in a way that sets it apart from everything else that we market. I'll send one of you guys the link to our little website that we have for the penthouse, and you can circulate it to the group. I'd love you guys to see it. But really, all we have left is this floor, the penthouse, and 1 or 2 other units, and that's it. Doesn't mean I'm out of a job. There is always something happening. There's always tenants rolling. Like, there's just always something going on in this building. At this exact moment in time, I'm working on about 11 deals. I do other things too. I work on some of our retail portfolios in Queens and all this other stuff, but very, very busy all the time. So asking rents continue to climb, yes.
So, for that, do you have like specific popular people like you marketing to, or it's just like?
For the penthouse?
Yeah.
So the penthouse materials that we put together, you probably haven't seen them yet, 'cause they're not really out there in the world, but you will. We're marketing it more towards a very elegant, high-end kind of a user. It's very special space. It's the entire 89th floor and the northern half of the 90th floor. It's the 2 highest leasable office floors in the entire Western Hemisphere. The only floors that are higher right now are the very top floors of JP Morgan's new headquarters over on Madison, but they're not leasable or available because JP Morgan's leasing them. So technically still, they are the highest. They're double height space, so these ceiling heights right here, or these slab heights I should say, are 13.4. The slab heights on the penthouse floors are 21. Picture double height windows, picture gorgeous, right? We're marketing this towards an ego player, a financial services type of a user who lives in Tribeca who wants to be able to walk to work. We're asking 160 a foot. Now, what are they asking at the top of One Vanderbilt? What do you think? Yeah.
I was gonna say,
Yeah.
this is not a paid promotion, but that number, the high 80s number is low compared to what's going on in Midtown for Class A, highly amenitized properties. That's been a thing here in New York. Class A, older stock buildings I was mentioning earlier getting converted to residential because they just don't have the things that the big companies are designing. There is a huge demand. People are coming back to New York, and I think I saw Mary Ann put out a stat that the demand for Class A office space covers New York through early 28. That means buildings that are just holes in the ground, that are coming out of the ground, are already spoken for on a leasing basis. So give you an idea. So it's priced extremely well. You also have to, and also is a tribute to Durst as a company and an organization for what they've done here, what they've accomplished, and to have the ability to pick and choose who they want to bring in. And again, you go back to basic economics 101, right? Supply and demand will move pricing. And that's another thing about the real estate business is that you move, you negotiate, you figure it out.
Yeah.
And then to the point of exclusivity, you talked about that. I have that every day in the retail world, right? You got to battle it. You know, you go into a property, and there are 5 tenants, and if I'm representing a tenant, I want a certain type of exclusivity. Like you try to do a lease with Starbucks, and they have figured out every single way you could possibly concoct coffee into anything, and they won't let you have another person do, coffee in the business. So that, there are certain tenants that do that, and there are certain tenants that you will flex for. We talked about flexibility earlier. You bend and you find a way, and when you get into a negotiation of any sort, and I don't know why I love Durst so much today, but Durst
here.
yes, but like Durst will come in, and they'll and big quality landlords like them will come into a negotiation. They will fight hard. They will fight you hard, but they will fight you fair. And they want you to fight back hard and fair. You don't win every point. They don't win every point. You win some, you lose some, because at the end of the day, you have to remember you're signing that document and you're married for 10 or 15 years. So they don't want to beat the hell out of you, and then you hate it for 10 years, and vice versa.
I
Building-
learned something recently, a great phrase, the best negotiation is the one that where both parties walk away slightly uncomfortable.
Exactly, very good.
Is that, I didn't mean to cut you
No,
off, but I feel like
that's fair.
it's
No,
such a
that-
great,
That's
right?
fair,
Yeah.
because the discomfort is a little give and it's a little take.
Yeah.
And that really, in the end, should be the win-win, because again, in most cases, you know, on a sale where you beat the hell out of the other side to win and da-da-da, you never talk to them ever again. But you sign a lease, you're married for 10 or 15 years, and you're gonna have a lead, and they're gonna need, you know, you're gonna need them.
Oh, yeah, lots of
Right.
that,
Right.
lots of that.
Yeah.
One more question.
Yeah.
Oh,
About this building, sorry. Are there many floors that are multi-story, or are there many tenants that are using multi-stories?
Great question. So this building is a mix, right? Conde's got 24 floors. They're our biggest. After that is MDC Partners, and they have 6 floors. And then after that, we have 4 or 5 tenants that have 2 floors. From there, we've got a bunch of single floor tenants. And then we have about 20 floors in the building that are multi-tenant floors, where the whole floor is built out with office, you know, smaller office suites ranging in size from like 2,000 to 20,000 feet. And our small suite program is really interesting because that's where we see tenants that are growing the most. We'll have tenants come in and take a 2,000 square foot space, and next thing you know, they're growing, they need 6,000 feet. And some of them scale really rapidly. I feel like I was talking to somebody about this before. Some of them scale really, really rapidly, and they like to come to a building like this, and not just one World Trade Center, there's plenty of buildings like this in the city, where there's a lot of options, where they know they're gonna come in, and maybe they'll sign a 5-year term, but they're not necessarily limited to the confines of that 5 years. Like if they call me in 3 years and they're like, we need to double our space, I'm gonna find the space for them. I might not have it tomorrow, but we'll work with you. So, yeah, that's the answer to that.
that's why you don't kill each other to negotiate. Something.
But it's fun sometimes.
I have 2 questions, one for the show.
Yeah,
How big is this floor square footage wise?
40,000 feet. Does it feel like it? Or it's like hard to have it
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
I'm not an architect myself, so I don't have the same spatial awareness.
That's
so-
fine. I can walk into a space sometimes and not necessarily have spatial awareness either, because New York City office buildings is something called the loss factor,
Right.
which is the actual square footage of a floor. Tenants are paying for more than that because they have to pay for all the common spaces throughout.
That's what I wanted to ask.
Yeah.
Like the gross leasable space, 40,000?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. This is 27% loss
And
factor.
that
of the
formula
floor.
changes.
Yeah.
I've gone to lunch with landlords, and he goes, what are you doing this afternoon? I said, what? I said, what are you doing this afternoon? He goes, I'm going back to my building, it grew last night, because they changed the loss
They
factor.
don't change often though.
They don't do it on the retail side though.
That was more my real question.
Yeah.
So with non-competes, you would probably deal with this in negotiations, but if you had a company come to you and you already know that there's a non-compete with another company in the building, do you take their call? Is there a situation where you would risk a lease or negotiate?
For us here, it just so rarely happens.
Yeah.
Because the competitors of Conde they just know that they're not coming here. It's just not really an issue.
They don't want to hear you.
The only other kind of tenant that we have non-competes with, we have a co-working space on 85, so we don't permit any co-working here in the building. We can't have like a bus, like a WeWork or something like that come in. That was an issue once many years ago where WeWork really wanted to get in the building, and it was, I don't even wanna get into that, but it didn't happen. But that's it.
Yeah, and ours on the, we could call it exclusivity, you know, as it relates. In the rare time, like I represent buildings also, so someone will come and they'll say, you know, I wanna do a coffee shop, I said, I can't, I got Starbucks. So really not much way around that. I may try to bring them to another property where you would bring them to another property you own to try to move it around. But on a rare occasion, if you get involved with a company that sells something that another company has exclusivity on, if the relationship is good, you can open up a dialogue and see if you can get a waiver on some portion of it. Right, if I represent Panda Express, I do Chinese food, I'm not letting anybody else do any kind of Chinese, there's no discussion. But like, you know, and I keep using Starbucks as an example because there's so many products, and those products cross over to so many different tenants. It may be a waiver on energy drinks or something like that, so you can open up a dialogue. So it's not a hard and fast no, but, yeah.
New York City's a big sandbox to play in. Let's go in order. Sorry.
So you mentioned that there were some startups with like a really young demographic that they joined here. They wanted to
Yeah.
become that. So my question is, how do you guys market this places? Do you market as like a more sustainable for like the new startups that they can grow in and maybe
Mhm.
they become their
All those things.
regional or national
all those things. You know, the brokerage community knows that. So most of the time when a tenant comes to this building is because their broker who's representing them called us and said, hey, I've got a tenant who I think would be a good fit for your building, and, you know. The brokers know that, and they can sell their clients on, hey, I think you should check out One World because it's a great place where you can grow. But as far as like our marketing materials, we don't put forth, you can grow here. That's not really one of our sort of bullet points, but we definitely have a very, they look very creative. The pictures of people in them are cool people hanging out in their jeans, like, you know, maybe, you can tell from our marketing materials who we're marketing towards, if that answers that question. I have a super fun story, it's quick, it's really quick, because I know we're running out of time, you guys are gonna like it. One of the first technology companies that came into this building was in 2015, let's call it, right? And they wanted an entire floor. They were a company called High Five Games, they're out of business now, but basically they wrote the technology for video games and slot machines and all this other like fun stuff. Anyway, they wanted to make sure that all of their staff was interested in coming here. Because of the sort of more consensus-based democratic process that we're seeing now in decision-making, it's not just the CEO being like, this is where we're coming. It's very like, are my employees happy? Anyway, the building was completely vacant. Every floor looked like this at the time. They said, can we host a party for our employees up on the, whatever that floor was, I don't even know at the time. And at the end, we're gonna have them vote. Do you wanna come to One World Trade Center or do you not? They literally, the only alcohol that they brought to this party was a keg, or like 10, I don't even know, but it was a keg party. It was literally a keg party being held on a floor in this building with the 25 and under staff running around and doing whatever they do, and at the end, it was like almost everybody, yes, we wanna come here. So they were one of our first.
It was a joint decision.
It was a child, thanks. No, it's just like, it's funny because that's the kind of people that were coming to this building, especially in the early years of 2015 to make money. But wait, I wanted to give these guys a chance, sorry.
Yeah, so for someone aspiring to break into the industry, what similarities and differences worth highlighting between working or representing single landlord or single client versus working with multiple clients?
Why don't you take this one?
Well, like, with me, you can make as much money in the whole wide world. It's endless, right? Karen has works for a wonderful organization, you're paid a wonderful salary, and it's a bonus, and that's it. That's what happens, she does her job.
Right.
And as a broker, you get to do anything and everything. And you can, you know, I think I gave you guys the analogy that, you know, you can win the lottery tomorrow and you can make $1 million tomorrow, right? Unlikely, but you can. She's gonna go to work, and in 2 weeks, she's gonna get direct deposit, she's gonna get paid. Wide open. And that's what it is, and that's why it's exciting to be unemployed, as I said, but it's also crucial to have discipline and focus, okay? Very task-oriented. Her deals have different levels of negotiation based on the tenant, based on size, based on the economic, but it's gonna be what it's going to be in the end. Mine and my world is different, and you have to stay laser focused from a discipline, organization, and patience. And that's really what it is. Someone said, I was having a conversation, someone said, you know, like, what'd you make last year? I don't know. And I'm not saying to be a wise guy, I don't know. Because we get paid broken up, and it comes in or whatever, so unless I call my accountant and find out, you know, I don't know what I got paid. You know, fortunately it's enough kind of thing, but that's what it is. And that's financially, that's the difference. But there are plenty of people, look how great she's doing, right? That's her, people are built that way. And that's perfectly fine, and you will find that. And people are like me, I'm like.
I could never do what you do, it's
Right,
just not my
exactly.
personality.
Like I'm like a controlled loose cannon, because I go in all kinds of directions, but I have some level of control of it. And going all the way back to what Karen had alluded to earlier, in terms of where you're going, what you're doing, what you're thinking, don't forget this. Very cliche, don't forget it. You are young. You are young. Try something. Fall in love with it. Hate it. If you hate it, try something else. You have that kind of time. Okay, this is a long stretch. Someone here is a Gary Vee follower. You know what I'm talking about, right? Right? I was with him the other night. That's okay. It's a long run. Find something to fall in love with it. May take 2 or 3 tries, maybe more. Don't forget that.
very, very close.
Like 5 minutes, I know you were next.
I mean,
You.
oh yeah, okay, so, back to like the whole job trajectory thing. I've noticed a pattern during these past 3 days that like a lot of the wonderful people we got to speak with, including you guys, there's a mismatch between what you studied and what you're doing now, right?
That's real estate.
And-
Everyone in real estate did not know they wanted to go into real estate back in the
And I found that
day.
interesting. A lot of people we talked to, they said the same thing. Like, oh, I didn't study this. I just discovered this and just upwards mobility kind of a thing. How much do you attribute that to New York City, or like being in the city? Because back, I would say in Maryland, it's like, oh, you're a planner, you study planning, and that's it. That's
My opinion, and we might have differing opinions, my opinion is more about the fact that there were very limited, if any, real estate programs 20, 30, 40 years ago. So if you're, a seasoned professional nowadays working in real estate, those opportunities were not available to you in the education world. So you're doing it not because of New York or anything else, but just because you couldn't have been educated in it, that education wasn't offered. That's my opinion, I don't know if you.
No, that's pretty close. I mean,
Yeah.
think about it now. How long, I've come down, some friends of mine. When was it?
2016.
2016 was the first time I came down to talk to the department. It was a graduate class, because you guys, or Maryland and you people, you guys were trying to build up a real estate department, right? We're doing all this planning and development and architect, but I know that there's like a real estate minor in there now. So way back when I was doing it, there was really no such thing.
Columbia was like the only school for real
Columbia
estate.
or
program.
NYU.
NYU.
Right, they had major, known, like, national real estate focused programs, so there wasn't a ton of it. And I don't know if it's a New York thing or whatever, but, you're just in circles and you're talking and you're schmoozing and you're finding your way, your thing. And
Yeah.
your friend tells you there's a receptionist, whatever it is.
Right.
Some of it's just pure dumb luck.
I think a lot of people who were in real estate, did study business and that sort of
Yeah.
thing, right? I don't think most of them were, science majors like myself. I mean, I'm a little bit of a weird anomaly, but I think it's mostly that. Do you ask for a specific reason, or like, where are you headed?
no, like it's more about like, is it you have to be somewhere to get these opportunities? And I think New York City's like a great example of that.
Frank Sinatra
We know
said
for that, but
Yeah.
I'm gonna throw out one last point, I know we're closing. And besides just being young and all that, where things have changed and how the business has evolved in my world, I know you can probably see it also. So data driven. Stay focused on the data. We find it all the time. Again, I'm the old school guy. I was telling them, everyone, you come work for me tomorrow, you know what you're doing? You're walking the streets, literally, okay? Because you have to learn the street, you gotta feel, you gotta touch. But today, everybody wants the data, and it's accessible. You gotta utilize it. Placer AI and Zoom info, there's all kinds of software, and all the different tenants, different customers want it. So you need to understand it. AI. We're gonna hear it till the cows come home, I get it. I totally get it, we're in it. But you gotta know the specific data to what you're doing, right? If you're building apartments, how many can I build, what size?
Great point.
Stuff.
Great point.
Stay focused on data. No, we didn't have it for someone to tell us even, okay? But today, everybody is data driven. And when I say like Placer AI is a software program mostly used in retail, tells you how many people walk in front of a store or walk in a shopping center, okay? The world has gone that way. Simon is the biggest, biggest shopping center development in the whole wide world. They changed with the times faster than anybody. They did this thing called omni-channel retail. Omni-channel retail is, you walk into their center, they know you're in there. They know your phone. I got you. The second you walk in, so what happens? You go into J. Crew and you go buy a pair of jeans. When you're done paying, your phone's gonna ping and tell you the Gap has a shirt to match your pants. They build that into their centers. That's how the world has changed. Everything's technology, everything's data. It's right in your face, believe me.
But you guys grew up with the technology,
Right,
so it's like
it's part of
second
you,
nature to
but it's so important as you evolve in the world.
Someone's gotta be the last question, your hand's up.
No, just wanted to say, like, add to what he said, right? So I have a friend that drives a Honda Hybrid, right? And I scroll through my phone feeds like every day. I never saw it. The first day I got into their car, right after that day, I started getting feeds about the
Yeah.
Honda
Probably
City
talking
car.
about it,
That's
right?
it.
It's
That's it.
wild, like it's too wild for me.
It is.
Yeah, like the very first time I walked into that
Yep.
car, the following day,
Yep.
I kept getting like feeds about that.
So now, did it make you wanna buy the
Pushing
car?
to me like, AR, I'm
Yeah.
like, how did you know I was living in
I know.
Dakar? It's wild.
It's pretty
like,
freaky.
Yeah,
It's
it
pretty
is.
freaky.
It is.
Just touching on technology real quick, please feel free to connect with me and I'm sure you on LinkedIn. Love staying in touch. I work with so many students over the years, Maryland, as well as other schools that I have relationships with, and just love seeing where people go. Like there are certain students I met, 8 years ago, and now I see what they're doing and I love it. So please connect with me.
LinkedIn, Zelnik Company, Cory Zelnik, my Instagram handle is Cory Zelnik,
Yep.
just the same.
And feel
same
free to reach
process.
out with questions.
Yeah,
We'll
never
answer.
hesitate, never
We'll
hesitate.
answer. It's so great. Oh!
Sorry, just go. What's your podcast?
My podcast is called The Zelnik Exchange.
Thanks, guys. Really like it.